Black in general can come with its own set of unique problems. But when it comes to Japan and its homogenous culture, what is it like to be black in the dating scene here?
This is a video that was brought to my attention by one of my subs and is discussing dating in Japan as a black person. And there are two gentlemen that they speak to, and so I want to discuss their experiences. But first, you need to meet the two of them.
I'm from London. I lived in Japan in the past for a year, but I'm just visiting this time.
My name is Michael Denge, 23 years old. I'm from Yaoundé, Cameroon, and I've been in Japan for about 16 years now.
For you guys who have followed my channel for a while, you know that I've been in Japan for 2+ decades. And in my time in Japan, I've come to see, in today's conversation specifically, dating in a specific way because I've seen many different people get paired. And in this case, I'm talking about men specifically. And I would group those into 3 different categories as represented by this Venn diagram titled Where You Meet Quote Unquote Her. For the great majority of guys, especially if you're in a big city, the chances are you're going to meet her at some kind of night establishment. If you're not an outgoing type, of course, this doesn't apply to you, but if you're the kind of guy that sticks out in the crowd, especially in a country like this, where dating is a bit different than most countries, but it's just not going to be comparable to the American experience, that club experience, the bar experience, maybe in a restaurant or just going out at night where people are liable to be much more communicative. This is probably the umbrella under which most guys, foreigners in this case, are going to meet their significant other person they're going to date. The second one, of course, she chooses you. And this can also apply to the club environment, but it can apply to, just generally speaking, the entirety of your existence in the country. Out shopping, walking by a park, coffee shop, and even dating apps. If she sees your picture or something about you and is connected to something that she likes, maybe a movie or hip hop or something like that, you will be chosen, and that will probably dictate where your relationship goes. Because in this country, the way that you meet is going to have a significant impact on the direction or the kind of relationship it is. If you want to meet a significant other that's going to go in a direction that's more liable to end up in marriage, that would be the third category, which I will reveal to you later in the video. I think this is probably one of the best stories to illustrate the need for investing heavily in learning the language of your partner, because you're going to have issues if you don't do that. But that aside, this story is going to be a great illustration of the difficulties that you're going to run into, not just as a black person dating in Japan, but as a foreigner dating someone with a language barrier.
I left 19 years of religion to be with this girl, the first girl that was willing to have with me. We went to a language exchange, kind of like an event together.
Right.
And she started acting really weird. You know, I was mingling with people, and you know, I wanted to introduce. She wanted to work on her English. She was already pretty fluent, but she wanted to just get over some social anxiety and just, you know. So I was helping her.
I would say that for someone that is just getting into a country and you're working on your language abilities, one of the pound for pound best ways that you can meet someone that's going to date you on more than the surface level, hopefully, is cultural exchange, language exchange. In this situation, you're meeting someone who is interested in learning a second language, so they probably are a college student, maybe they graduate college, or they're working a professional job, and maybe their cup of tea is just not going out at night and drinking. Of course, this also means that they probably have interest in going overseas and living overseas, so you'll have to balance that with your expectations for the relationship. But you also have to understand, if you're speaking to them in English, you have to know that their English ability is not on par with yours, more likely than not, and that can lead to miscommunication, which is what happened here.
So I was helping her, and I was introducing myself, introducing my girlfriend, and then she went to the toilet, and she didn't come out for like 20-30 minutes.
Good girl.
Well, when she came out, she was just like, I'm going home. Okay. Is everything okay? And she was just like, yeah, I'm just going home. It's okay. Gosh. Okay. At this point, I still don't know what's going on.
Right.
So I was walking her back to the station, and obviously me being a young guy who just wanted to make the relationship work, I was just like, what did I do wrong? I'm sorry. Did I do anything wrong? Please tell me. And she was just like, you don't want to talk to a weirdo like me. I'd used the word weirdo when I was talking to someone, and she seemed to be like self-deprecating herself. Who said you were a weirdo?
There you can see, when you use a word that someone has a very negative connotation with, and maybe they don't understand all of the words around the words that you use that language with, they can take that personally. And in this case, that's what she did. The end of the date, of course, didn't go as well as it could have. And I think they stopped seeing each other or whatnot. But the point of the story is, if you are assuming that the person speaks English as well as you do, or they understand all of the English that you're using, that is a very big assumption. And if you're learning the other language, you would understand why it is. The next story fits this part of the Venn diagram in the club. And it speaks to, if you are a certain archetype and you go to a certain place and you have a certain look, that might be all you need.
A lot of my friends tell me it's easier for me to date out here because they say that a lot of Japanese girls, they find black guys cool. Well, from my experience, it's been easy dating out here. Because I had dreads at the time, and people would tell me they just like the way I rocked it. Yeah, they would just tell me like, you're like a guy like that could dance, pretty much hip hop.
Being black and dating here in Japan, I don't know why people say that, oh, it's impossible for a black guy, oh, they don't like them. There will always be someone here for you. They might not be with you for the right reasons. I mean, if you're not a weirdo, if you're not a creep, and if you're, you know, a decent guy, you don't even need to be a decent guy. There's always going to be a Kokujin hunter.
So I mentioned earlier, especially for guys that have limited language ability, there's a very high likelihood that you're going to be in a night setting, like a bar, a club, some kind of dancing hall, or maybe even a restaurant or something like that, as the place where you'll probably meet someone, just because you won't have the language ability to meet that person in any other setting. But after that, there's the she chooses you, where if you are the kind of guy that sticks out, or you're the kind of type that she likes, you could just be walking somewhere, and it's kind of unique to Japan, maybe, I'm not sure because I've only been to a couple of countries, but she might see you and think that you're the kind of guy that is interesting, and she'll do something a bit overt, like maybe walk up to you and touch your hair, or she'll ask you your name, or she'll give you a very heavy choosing signal as a means of showing you, I'm interested in you because I see something on your surface that is appealing to me. And he says Kokujin hunter, which of course means searching for a black person. And yes, there are. In this case, Tokyo, there will be a lot of that. Probably not so much in other cities, but in this case, someone specifically looking for a black person.
There's always going to be a Kokujin hunter.
Kokujin hunter.
There's always, if you go to Roppongi, they'll just show them your skin color, show them the fact that you are black, and they'll be like, oh, okay, this is the aesthetic I like.
A lot of people from the US or other countries, they come to Japan just to find a girl, right?
Yes.
Does that actually exist here in Japan?
It exists in the sense that Japanese people are more accepting of social rejects. Which means if you're a loser back home, you can come here and find someone who actually thinks you're cool. Doesn't mean that they all think you're cool.
Yeah. But like some...
And you're probably not going to be cool, but you're more likely to find someone.
I think he's being a bit facetious when he uses the word cool and guys that are laying back home, because cool is very relative and it changes extremely fast these days. That said, as a guy who he said he was in Japan for a year and he's just here for a little while, his language ability probably is limited based on the amount of time, because it takes a long time to master the language. And so he's probably in a place where many foreigners are, and there are an accumulation of young girls who want to date foreigners, specifically black guys. And if you're a cool black guy or cool looking black guy, that's going to get the job done. And he's going to speak to it.
You being black, do you think it helped dating scene here in Japan?
It helps me stand out. Like, I can walk into a room and then they'll be like, oh, will.i.am. Oh.
will.i.am, you got will.i.am.
Exactly. No, I got Floyd Mayweather. You know, you could be the only black guy in the club, start dancing, and everyone wants to join you. Because you're like the only black guy there dancing to hip hop. And it's just like, oh my gosh, a real, authentic black guy is here dancing hip hop. I can't believe it. Like, Will Smith is actually here.
Seemingly without even realizing it, this gentleman makes probably the strongest case for why people that are really interested in a culture to get down and buckle down on that language, so you can avoid this problem that comes when you don't speak the language.
Dancing, and everyone wants to join you because you're like the only black guy there dancing to hip hop. And it's just like, oh my gosh, a real, authentic black guy is here dancing hip hop. I can't believe it. Like, Will Smith is actually here. As a white person, you have a little bit more of a chance of appealing to broader, exactly. But then again, there's a problem with being niche, is the fact that you're more likely to get fetishized. We go to a club in Roppongi where all the women are into hip-hop, then it's just like, oh, I love your style, but it's not necessarily I like you. That's what you need to be careful of the people who just like the culture, fetishize the culture a little bit.
I had a lot of people ask me if they could touch my hair. They ask questions like a lot of sexual questions, well, towards my friends, you know, how big is it down there, stuff like that.
If you have time, I certainly implore you to go to the original video and watch it in its entirety so you can hear all of the answers in their full context. That said, they continue asking them, where do you meet people? And they say things from going to bars and clubs to game centers to even social media or dating apps. And for where they are, which is Shibuya, that is kind of okay. But again, that's going to be tailored to people that are more apt to wanting to date foreigners specifically, because that's kind of that area. It's a party area. But if you get outside of that area, this is where it's more important to follow the third piece of advice on the Venn diagram, your social circle. Find someone or a group of people that you're connected with, and inside of that social circle, either they'll introduce you to people or take you to events that are a bit more exclusive, in which case you will be able to get away from someone that's meeting you, approaching you, and liking you specifically because you're in an area where many people that maybe look like you gather. And instead, you can get into a situation where these are people that are college students, or they're interested in wine, or they do a certain kind of social dance, and you happen to be there. And then you have a more natural interaction. Because if you're looking for someone for a relationship on a deeper level, you're going to have to find this either if you're in a large city or in a smaller one. So that's, in a nutshell, dating in Japan as I've seen it in a couple of decades. If you want to date here and you want to find someone that's dating you for more than just, oh, you're cool because you're X, Y, and Z, you can dunk a basketball, you're going to need to learn the language and get yourself into an environment where you can find regular people that live regular lives and don't hang out Shibuya, because, again, that's a quite small subsect of the actual country of Japan. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. I'll catch you next video. Take care, guys.